In this video, we're talking about Magic Happens returning. There are some pretty significant signals pointing in that direction. We're going to talk about what's going on with the Treehouse, Tarzan's Treehouse, what theme they might potentially choose. A lot of interesting stuff happening with that. We're going to talk about that and much, much more up next on OG 55. Welcome to another episode of OG 55. I brought my good friend, my collaborator, my co-host, my producer, the man who wears many, many hats, has many, many titles, Vash Guy, host of the Freshly Squeezed show here on OG 55. Dre, welcome back, sir.
Hey, I really do appreciate it. You know, it's kind of funny. I apparently wear many hats, but you know, it's you that's been wearing the hats lately.
That's true. That's true. That's very, very true.
I thought that was ironic. But hey, I like the hat look. I like the you know, the unbuttons. You know, you know, hey, let's relax and let's go ahead and talk some Disney. And I think our viewers appreciate that as well. So, hey, if you want to go ahead and follow me, you can go ahead and do so right down there at Vash Sky. You guys have been doing amazing so far. I mean, it's just fantastic support. Like I said, we are going to be doing a special giveaway when I do hit 1,000, and OG we are actively conferring as we speak on what that is going to be. So definitely stay tuned for that. But you guys have been doing great. I think I'm at 991. I checked before the show, so. Only a little bit of ways. Thank you so much. And if you want to go ahead and see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, let's dive right in. First topic of the day is Magic Happens, and it looks like it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Looks like the magic does happen. You're right.
Looks like it's happening. So go ahead, Dre. Go ahead and set the table here on what we're looking at.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. So this comes from Walt Disney World News Today, it looks like the I guess you know, we would call them the internet sleuths in other contexts, but the Disneyland sleuths who always are looking at casting calls, casting sheets, trying to get any, you know, point of information on, as it relates to anything at the Disneyland Resort, which has been done for years now by MiceChat and some others. Looks like they may have found something, and it's quite interesting. Casting calls suggest Magic Happens Parade may return to Disneyland. And if we see right here on the Disney Careers page, we see two listings. It looks like the location is 3D Theatricals and Feeling Dance Studio. And it looks like looking for parade performers and looking for Disney character lookalikes, Disney character performers, and parade performers. So that tells me it looks like they're looking for just performers that kind of dance and perform alongside the parade route, and then actual characters that are featured on the floats. That's what it kind of looks like to me. One of them's for Disneyland Paris, of course. One of them's for Disneyland, as we can see right there. But I still think this still applies. It looks like they're going in this kind of direction. Kind of very interesting. Now, it could be... let's see here. Sources have confirmed... Oh, I see. It even features this. Sources have confirmed at Walt Disney World News Today that a Christmas fantasy parade has already been cast for the holiday season. So a lot of people might have suggested, hey, look, it's Christmas fantasy parade. Maybe this is for that. Well, apparently not. However, they're still looking for more performers. Now, it's interesting. I mean, it would be quite a while until we would see Magic Happens come back, obviously, because there is a holiday season featuring a parade coming up here. So we likely wouldn't see anything until January, February at the very earliest. So it kind of makes sense that they'd be casting right now for that. It's very interesting, OG. What do you think about this?
Well, I have one big question mark in my brain.
Sure.
Because it's kind of funny because like a lot of these like outlets and stuff are kind of saying that it's for Magic Happens, and it might be. It very well could be, but there's really no indication that that is the parade. This could very well be Paint the Night for all we know. Coming back to DCA,
it could be. It could be. I mean, that's an interesting point. I mean, we do have to kind of consider all things on the table, right? Because there are a number of parades in these kind of storage location warehouses that Disneyland has. Do we know if any infrastructure is left behind from a DCA centric parade? Like I know, I understand Block Party Bash was retired quite a bit ago, but I mean, anything there could be a possibility.
Maybe the last DCA daytime parade was the Pixar one. I forgot the name of it offhand. Right?
I do believe it was very heavily Pixar inspired. Yes.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but has that one? I haven't heard any word on that one, but maybe they'll bring that back. I don't know.
I think we were just talking about 2017, 2018 being the time when the Pixar Festival was back in what was going through the Disneyland Resort, and I believe that's where that Pixar type parade was featured in Disney California Adventure. I could be wrong, but I believe it has. Go ahead.
No, the Pixar parade actually predated that Pixar Fest.
Well, yes, yes, that is true. But what I'm saying is that I believe that Pixar parade that was last featured was the same one that was featured in that Pixar Fest, right? And that may have been the tail end of its run there. That's
true. Yeah, that is true. That could have been the tail end. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting because like I look at this and I'm like, okay, yeah, it could very well be Magic Happens, but Paint the Night is out there. And also another wild card. Remember, we have D23 coming up and we have the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Company coming up in 2023. This could easily be a 100 years of Disney parade as well, that a new parade that we're not even aware of yet.
It could be Magic Happens going to get some rebranding. Is that
it? Maybe they'll get some rebranding. Maybe it'll be an all new parade. Who knows? And Disney does like to do that. You bring up a great point, Ray, where like they like to kind of like take an existing parade and add like maybe a float or two to it. They just did this with the electrical parade with the kind of the global unit, small world unit.
Sure.
Replacing the Americana float. Maybe it'll be something like that. That's a good point. Maybe it'll be Magic Happens with like maybe new music and like a special 100th anniversary
edition,
like finale float or something. That's a possibility too. There's a lot on the table.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're right.
Right? It could be that.
There's a lot on the table, like you said. I mean, it really could be that. Wouldn't it be funny if D23 Expo did the same thing that they did in 2019? D23 Expo, with the only thing they talk about basically is Magic Happens for Disneyland Resort.
Oh,
man. The return of that. That would be that'd be hilarious. I know. And we're gonna get into that, by the way, in terms of expectations. But this is interesting, and we just had a conversation with somebody that we know that is very familiar with the Disneyland Resort. And they were suggesting that, Disneyland is staffing up on a regular basis, right? Doing all that it can, especially with the economic times being what they are, and especially being the California market being what it is. Right. Doing all they can to staff up for all these kind of various areas, whether it be even maintenance technicians, custodial, frontline cast members, and so forth. It's nice to see that it looks like they're staffing up to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, we can have looks like we can have a parade. We can get that thing on schedule. Also, too, I think the other thing that I think a lot of people are kind of looking towards is maybe something for the Hyperion. If we can get something back there. And it would be great if that was one of the announcements at D23 Expo, which I guess brings us to our next topic about maybe Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, or I'm sorry, Tarzan's Treehouse. Yeah. First Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, but that little bit of info might have gotten a whole lot interesting. So, should I go ahead and start transitioning us here?
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and pull up the video. This is actually from Dusty from Mice Chat. Great content by Dusty and the Mice Chat team, by the way. Definitely check them out. I mean, if you're watching my channel, you more than likely do check them out already. But if by chance you're not aware, they do amazing content.
Yes, and if you're, I mean, if you are a kind of reader, a viewer of those weekly My Shout updates, they usually include a segment by Dusty himself where he actually walks around the park, and he updates viewers as to what's actually happening in that form as well. If you haven't checked these out, folks, these are really, really cool because it's not just an update of the overall Disneyland Resort, as it exists operationally, but it's also, it also includes a lot of good nuggets about what the future of the resort may be and so forth. So it's a really fascinating thing. Anyway, as he was walking alongside the old Tarzan's treehouse, he said this, and I thought it was going to be very interesting to bring this up to our viewers. So let's hear.
We will see the big giant green scrim for the Adventureland treehouse, and I do think we're going to hear what's coming to the treehouse at the D23 Expo.
Fair.
I think I already know what it is. We shall see. I'm very pleased. And no, it is not Encanto.
It's not Encanto. Interesting to say that. Interesting thing there. I think a lot of people are feeling that it is Encanto, right? That's the obvious choice. And honestly, it is kind of the obvious choice. But, thinking about it more, maybe it's not. Maybe the obvious choice has been right in front of us all along. OG, what do you think?
Well, you and I had a great conversation about this last night on the phone. And we were kind of like going down this rabbit hole. What could it be? What could it be? Because you're right. Fans are really expecting this to become the Encanto treehouse. I think the little kid in the movie, his name is Antonio, and he has a treehouse or whatever in the movie. And people just assumed, okay, it's going to be that, right?
Right.
If it's not that, though, if it's not Encanto, like Dusty said. Now, by the way, Dusty has great sources. I mean, that website has scooped a lot of stuff and has been correct on a lot, right? So he's not just pulling this out of thin air, He's hearing stuff. He's definitely hearing stuff. So if it's not Encanto, what could it be? Well, there is a little show coming to Disney Plus. I don't know when. We might get a little more detail on that show, maybe at the Expo later this week. A Swiss Family Robinson TV show. Okay. Now, this is interesting because that would kind of check a few boxes for Disney. Number one, it promotes the new show, which is Disney's all about that synergy,
Yes.
But number two, it sort of appeases like the diehard fans, like Dusty, like me and yourself, where we're essentially getting the Swiss Family Treehouse back, and so you're kind of pleasing all sides here. You're pleasing the suits because you're promoting the new Disney Plus thing.
Right.
But you're also pleasing the diehard fans like ourselves, where we get to see a return of the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. And that might also explain why they got rid of the secondary stump, because they're trying to return the treehouse to its former kind of
Swiss Family glory.
Right, exactly. And I'm telling you, I think that's a very solid theory. Dre, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I completely agree with you. It checks those two boxes, but the other couple boxes it checks is, for one, that how much do you really want to invest in the treehouse? To be honest, I mean, it's. I don't think anybody's necessarily booking vacation packages for it. Let's be clear here. So, it's probably something that you don't want to transform all that much, and taking it back to Swiss Family Robinson wouldn't require that much effort, to be honest. Now, I'm not saying that effort's not going to be applied here. I mean, we could get the, added audio animatronics and so forth. We could get new effects. I'm not saying that we're not. It's just, the hard reality is that, or I should say, what is it?
And the hard facts.
The hard facts are that it's just not, it's not just, you don't have a lot of people going through there. But obviously there needs to be some solution there, and it looks like they are working on that as we speak. So what better way to kind of appease fans, but also spend a modest sum, than bringing it back to what it was before? It wouldn't take all that much effort when you really think about it. And the other thing too is it would be a perfect promotional piece, and especially how the D23 Expo is actually arranged. I believe the studio panel that might go into more detail about what is coming for Disney Plus precedes the parks panel, right? So this kind of dual kind of what is a promotional piece that you could have at the expo just from its actual scheduling. One flows nicely into the other, let's say. And I think all those things combined, it's like, that's interesting. Maybe Encanto, as much as people might want that, maybe it wasn't necessarily the obvious choice. And to be honest, folks, that could be a good thing, even for Encanto fans, because honestly, me personally, I think I'd like Encanto in the form of an entirely separate attraction, and one that actually very much capitalizes on what Burbank themselves, Chapek himself, has said is a franchise within the Disney animation realm. So I think that's I think longer term that might be the better option.
I agree 100%. And actually, our buddy Dave over at Fresh Baked made a great speculation video the other day where he was kind of like brainstorming, and he actually had an interesting kind of theory on this. Now, I don't think this is going to happen, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless, where he was saying, given how Disney is very like they're into this kind of idea of creating new revenue streams, that maybe it'll be some sort of like paid experience, like maybe like a special kind of upcharge fireworks viewing thing up there. And that would also kind of explain why they got rid of the secondary stump, because you want to have a clear shot if you're going to be watching the fireworks up there. You can't be having another tree in your way, And I thought that was an interesting theory. My only thing that's working against that is that there's not a whole lot of room up there, so you can only fit so many people. Yes. I don't know if it would be really worth it for Disney to do that. And another thing working against that is what Dusty's saying, because Dusty is very much in the loop, and he has a lot of sources. And I really don't think Dusty would be, because he mentions in this clip, he's very happy with what he's hearing.
Right.
I don't think Dusty would be happy to hear that it would be basically a paid upcharge sort of venue. I don't think that seems like something he'd be down for.
Yes.
So I don't think that Dave's theory is going to happen, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless, and it's worthy to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were going over potential options in terms of what they could do, right, for the entire resort, and I think we were saying Operation Operation Stool or Operation Bar, right, where you add a series of bars throughout the resort. And it's kind of interesting. I think one thing that would be like super cool is a bar right there, up in the treehouse like that. That would be sick, and you can serve Swiss Family Robinson inspired drinks from the the kind of water mechanism bamboo kind of cups that they used to have, and you can serve them in those. It would be phenomenal. Right. It's just, the issues with the treehouse. I mean, I don't think that the superstructure or substructure would necessarily allow for even like a viewing area, much less a bar, of course. And the other thing that kind of gets in its way is elevator or I should say ADA access. That's always been an issue with these kind of attractions, and they did handle it nicely in the form of Sleeping Beauty Castle in its walkthrough, right, where you have kind of a video presentation featuring what people can see on that walkthrough. That way, people who can't navigate those stairs get some kind of experience. Unfortunately, Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, or Tarzan's Treehouse, I should say, has always been kind of a sticking point. And I just don't think that the company wants to necessarily spend the money in order to provide for those additional services. So that's kind of the only thing working against it, and that's why I'm thinking this is going to be kind of modest. It's interesting, I mean, as far as viewing areas, isn't it interesting how they don't necessarily use that that kind of awning or that kind of but that balcony that you see from New Orleans Square, 21 Royal Street and the Dream Suite,
Right.
It's interesting they don't use that for either Fantasmic viewing or fireworks viewing, but I could see that as kind of a premium option for those guests.
Absolutely.
It's really unfortunate that doesn't actually happen.
Disney's weird sometimes. They monetize some stuff that I'm like, why are you doing that? And then this other stuff that's like that, like like the obvious kind of choice. They leave it. It's like leaving money on the table. It's just weird to me. Like the mindset sometimes kind of blows my mind. It really does. It's like the Galaxy's Edge thing. I mean, fans have been begging them to get rid of the timeline, begging them to bring in the OT characters or the prequel characters, and now they're starting to trickle it in. But how long did it take them? 3 years. It's just weird. Like when there's money on there's money like basically being handed to them, they're like, no. And it's like, but then in other ways, they're like monetizing stuff that doesn't need to be monetized. It makes no sense.
It doesn't. I mean, it's like the obvious point at which you can monetize, they choose not to, and then they monetize all these other things. I mean, wouldn't it be cool? This is for JPEG here. This is something you could monetize that I think people would really like. Is maybe the ability for like you could pay maybe per day to have kind of a merchandise service in which whatever you buy at these various locations, they not only hold but that they transfer at the front gate for you. So that way, you could be more inclined to buy some things that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have because you don't want to be hauling it around the park all day. Offering those kind of services, I think would be like, that's something that we've never really had before, and I think a lot of people would like it. They'd be like, oh, hey, look, listen, one less thing I have to worry about. I can buy all the merch I want. I don't have to worry about carrying it around. I don't have to worry about babying it or whatever. You have this kind of this kind of package or merchandise service right there in the park. This white glove treatment kind of option. I think that'd be really cool.
No, that would, and it incentivizes more spending because a lot of times, I know for me personally, like that's crossed my mind sometimes. Like, well, do I really want to get this and then I got to carry it around all the time? If you take that out of the equation, you'd be more inclined to get it. Oh, I don't have to carry it, so yeah, let's get it.
Exactly, and it could be an upsell. It could be an upsell when you're at the counter. I mean, I think it'd be really kind of cool to look at things that really do help the guest experience and things that you can monetize as well.
Exactly.
Instead of just like, oh yeah, we offer flexibility in the form of Disney of Genie Plus. And if you want to go ahead and get on that big ride, it's only $19.95 to do that. It's like, come on, But these kind of services I think would be really, really cool. So anyway, I just want to go ahead and spitball that.
I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think that's something that, honestly, stuff like that is the stuff that Disney should be really looking at. I think that's something that people would really look at and go, "Oh, I'd pay for that. I would pay for that." So
yeah,
and you can include that into like even it'd be kind of cool if like with the Magic Keys or what have you, you can even maybe include that into some passes or something like, okay, if you buy this merch, they take it to a holding area somewhere else at the resort until you're done. It'll be an add-on to the Magic Key, or if you're like a hotel person, you can get that added on or whatever. There's just so many options and various things they can do with that. It really is a brilliant idea.
I think so, and I think that's a good idea too. Having it be a kind of an upcharge add-on to the Magic Key program. I think that'd be. I think a lot of pass holders might like. Ooh, well, that's interesting. If I pay a nominal fee per year, I can go ahead and get this service added on, and then it'll make every single time I go to the resort that much more. Let's say easier to navigate, or more convenient, I should say. Right. So anyway, I just want to go ahead and throw that out there, and I think the last topic, I think that's kind of important. I guess we could go into maybe what our personal predictions are for D23 Expo the last time, but I think the more important thing about all of this is managing expectations. Yeah. And it's something that I will admit, folks, I haven't done the greatest job in doing, and I severely apologize for that because, I don't know. I'm a fan as well, and sometimes I get, wrapped up into these things, and I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great, and you kind of build it up in your mind, and before you know it, you realize, oh no, I just not only did I build this thing up in my mind, but I also built it up in the mind of the viewers at home and got them excited about something that you know is a possibility that it happens, but you know is maybe sets up a false level of expectation for said thing. So, OG, what do you think about that?
Expectations are a real big issue with any kind of Disney convention, in my opinion, even Star Wars Celebration. You know, I've said it many times on this show that I've been stood up at the altar many times when it comes to the Star Wars Celebration and when it comes to D23 Expo. I go into these things with like massive expectations, you know, and I walk away very disappointed. This one is kind of funny. It's kind of worked in reverse a little bit because I actually, if you were to ask me a few months ago if I was hyped for this expo, I would have said no, because I've been burned so many times with the expo in regards to Disneyland. We don't usually get a lot of announcements for Disneyland. So I was kind of like, you know, I'm not going to get my hopes up. But then we started to hear all these rumors from all these various outlets about the People Mover coming back and a new Tomorrowland and this, that, and the other. I'm like, dang, it's hard not to take that in as a fan and get excited. It's hard not to get pumped, you know? And right now we're kind of in the danger zone right now because, you know, we're in the danger zone a little bit because we're seeing a lot of outlets, a lot of YouTube content creators and what have you, really kind of hyping, and including us, we've done it, hyping this like People Mover thing. And, you know, and like, there's kind of like this expectation now that we're going to hear something, whether it's People Mover, New Tomorrowland. And that's a little scary because if you look what's on the table right now, right? If you look at what we are going to get for sure, like guaranteed 100%, we're going to get more news on Tiana, Splash Mountain. Almost certainly. I think they've even said as much. We're almost certainly going to get information on the new Toontown renovation and Mickey Minnie Runaway Railway. Mm-hmm. And then we're also going to get the Treehouse. Those are pretty much a given. Well, that in and of itself, those three items, that's enough to fill a segment. That's enough. If they were just to give us those things, technically that's enough for the Disneyland portion of the presentation.
And if you want to add on to that, you could even include the new parade that we were just talking about before. You could also, or the returning parade, I should say. You could also include Hyperion. You could also include, you know, Downtown Disney. And you could include these kind of things that, you know, necessarily don't come in the form of a new attraction, but things that are kind of expected at this point.
Right. And then Magic Bands.
Yeah, Magic Bands. Apparently, Dusty had a little bit of a, you know, in this video, he was talking about how we're going to hear about Magic Bands at the D23 Expo. I mean, pretty much like affirm, like, hold on, guys, this is coming. It's going to come in this form, which makes sense. I mean, you know, debut this product, talk about it, and debut it for a new audience on the West Coast. It all kind of lines up. It all kind of makes sense. Right. But it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I mean, this is the Parks Experiences and Products a panel, right? And so it doesn't just include the parks. It includes, you know, resorts, cruise line, tours by Disney, Adventures by Disney or whatever. It also includes merchandise, you know, because that's consumer products was kind of, you know, rolled into that a little bit. And so, and then, you know, maybe even video games and so forth, Disney Interactive, because that was rolled into consumer products as well, you know, before consumer products itself was rolled into the, you know, parks and resorts. So again, it's only an hour and a half presentation.
Right.
And we already have 4, 5, 6 major things that we already know is coming. Right.
And so what are they going to do? They're going to add more to that? I really hope they do. Now, the one thing is with DCA, there really isn't, with the for sure stuff that we know, the Treehouse, Tiana Splash Mountain, and Toontown. None of that involves DCA.
Yeah.
So that kind of bodes well for DCA a little bit that they're going to announce something. And if they announce something, I'm assuming it's going to be the Avengers ticket. Because there are no for sures on the table for DCA. Everything at Disneyland that we talked about are kind of, well, at least those three things, Tiana, Toontown, and the Treehouse are for sure. DCA doesn't have a for sure. So I think there's a good chance we're going to get that e-ticket. I really do. But again, it's all about managing expectations, because if we don't, man, I'll be pretty bummed. I think out of everything, I think that might bum me out probably the most, just because I feel like DCA really needs it. And I think that's something that would really flesh out Avengers Campus quite a bit. That's really what that land needs. You know, Spider-Man Web Slingers is really the Millennium Falcon Smugglers run of that land. Avengers Campus needs their Rise of the Resistance now. Give them that big e-ticket, and you have a really solid land. Now, I know Breakout is technically part of that land's e-ticket, but I do think they need one more biggie to flesh it out. But go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
They do. And we will get into this conversation a little bit more on another video, but I just want to go ahead and, offer a little bit because it is relevant to this discussion. Apparently, the Marvel guys, at least when negotiating with their partners to actually produce the various products for Marvel in terms of merchandise, toys, action figures, etc., I guess the language that they're using has kind of changed. They've gone from units to dollar amount. Now, the relevance of that is that you would go to dollar amount because maybe you're not selling as many units as you were before. And dollar amount, you can hide that a little bit because of the inflation. So it's like, oh no, we're still selling big, but it's like, are you really? It's never been an issue with Marvel before. It's kind of been an issue with Star Wars, but not Marvel. So is the Marvel train slowing? Now, I'm not saying that it is, but that has, we all know that kind of Phase 4 is not the, it's not lighting the world on fire like Phase 3 and some of the other phases before it. Now, there is a lot of Marvel content in the works, obviously. So I think it still makes sense to go forward with an Avengers e-ticket, especially because I believe, I didn't really, I guess, absorb this until just a few months ago, but the Avengers e-ticket was also on the slate for Hong Kong. So it's like, okay, well, now it's like a twofer. So now it makes even more financial sense to develop this attraction going forward. But, a guy like Chapek, who's always looking at the hottest properties, is he maybe wondering, should we necessarily be investing not only the amount of resources, but the time in developing an attraction like this, because maybe it won't necessarily be as relevant as maybe it would have been had we stuck to our original schedule back in 2018.
Well, I think with the Avengers e-ticket, if they stick with the Avengers, right, and kind of like the Infinity era, like Marvel, and they do a lot of like Thor, Hulk, Black Panther, Cap, Iron Man, you're golden. Because that never went away. There's a huge thirst for that Marvel, for that MCU.
Right.
But you made a great point though. Phase 4 is like, it's really not hitting it. I mean, there's like good and bad to it, but it's not the juggernaut that the last phases were. So I think, you don't want to build an e-ticket based on Phase 4. That's absolutely off the table. They should not do that. The good thing about Avengers Campus, though, is that it's very fluid in their timeline. It's not like Galaxy's Edge. So they could do, with the Avengers e-ticket, something more based on the more popular phases. Yeah. And sort of do it that way. And I think they will. I do believe that would be the direction. But that's interesting. That is interesting. But they got to lean into the more popular stuff. Bring Cap in there, Hulk, Black Widow, Iron Man, and I think if you do something like that with like those core characters, man, it would be a banger. It'd be very popular.
I think so. Look, and the parks have proven time and time again, the strength of IP doesn't necessarily indicate the strength of what that attraction is going to be. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily like the sequel trilogy, but everybody who's genuine and honest, let's say, will admit Rise of Resistance, pretty great attraction, right? Yeah. I mean, even I can go, this thing's killer. You gotta see it at least one time, right? Night Before Christmas. Night Before Christmas didn't do any amount of, it didn't light the box office on fire. I'll put it that way, right?
No.
But they were able to take that, which had, it kind of had a little bit of a merchandise line, and it had kind of been successful. It was a cult. It was kind of a cult classic, and it was like, hey, let's do something using this IP, overlay the Haunted Mansion with it. Let's see what happens. And now it's one of the most successful elements that they do every single year for Halloween time and Christmas.
Well, and on the flip side, you have a movie with Monsters Inc., which was massively successful in 2001. One of the highest grossing Pixar films at the time, I think. It was a massive movie. Yeah. But the attraction at DCA is very, as the kids say, very mid.
Yeah.
Very, very like unremarkable. It doesn't garner a huge crowd, lines, none of that, Right. So you have a very popular IP, but the attraction doesn't do well. And then you have, like you said, in reverse, not so popular stuff, but and the attraction's like, super popular. So
a lot of people
you can't
don't
lean
like
too much into the IP in terms of like, you can't really predict it too much.
Yeah. A lot of people don't like Cars, but they love Cars Land. A lot of people don't like Avatar, but they love Avatar. So we see this kind of stuff where it's like, just because, demand might be one thing for this IP doesn't mean that demand will be, kind of a straight line when it comes to its implementation at theme park. It could take on various forms, and I do think I think people want a Marvel attraction, like really, really bad, a really, really for real Marvel attraction. I mean, Cosmic Rewind is said to be one of the greatest attractions, not just at Epcot, but Walt Disney World and even Florida. I mean, people really, really love that attraction. So you can only imagine what a really for real attraction in the form of the Avengers characters, integrating all of those great character IPs all together in one attraction. I mean, it could be really, really phenomenal stuff. So I really do hope that they go in that direction. But if they don't, I mean, it would be surprising, but if they don't, at least at this expo, we could get something for the Hyperion. I mean, that's something that DCA desperately needs, right? And I think a Hyperion type show would do much to improve overall guest satisfaction. It would be something that the fans would genuinely be interested in, and a lot of the general audience would take to that, and it wouldn't be in the form of a very expensive new attraction for DCA. So I can see them going that route as well, at least for this one. Yeah. Maybe if liquidity issues and revenues, kind of improve and they pay off, their debts and so forth, maybe there's cash to really do it up for the next expo. But I could see them going, let's say, a little bit modest now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like we said at the beginning of this conversation, just keep expectations in check, right? It's always better to be pleasantly surprised,
right,
than to be disappointed. So
yeah, it's really important because I think a lot of people are putting a lot of onus and pressure on this D23 Expo. I should say, let's be fair here, the D23 Expo. However, just I'm not. Be cautiously optimistic. Right. That's about the best thing I could say. Just be cautiously optimistic, because I've had it too, where I've oh man, I can't wait for this expo. What's gonna be? What's gonna what are they gonna share and everything like that? And I mean, at least for my expo, I got a 3D model of Shanghai's castle. That's basically the bulk of what I got. And wasn't that great? Or you could get the Target dog. I'm just saying, it happens.
It happens, and I really hope we come back here next week. And we reconvene and talk about the expo, and we're all really happy. But there is a possibility we come back and I got to do this drop. So you never know. It could be a very sad day for us next week, or we could be, oh my God, that was awesome. So we'll see. But manage expectations, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, and we are planning to do a show following the expo, right? If not the same, if not the, yeah, I believe on the same day, but if not the same day, very soon, because you know, I understand people are probably going to want to hear what we had to say and you know how it all went. So so we're definitely doing that, and we're also doing. I think we could do, because the issue is for the folks at home. You know, my schedule's a little bit tight right now because obviously I'm going to be leaving and seeing these fellas in the parks. And unfortunately, that takes a little preparation, right? So if you see a kind of slowing down of videos being released, or at least featuring me now, OG, hey, you know, you might
hold down the fort.
Hold down the fort. And but I'm just saying, if you see a slowdown in any regard, that might be why. That could be a contributing factor. But I did want to talk about some other stuff, which, unfortunately, guys, we're going to have to get to another video. But maybe the dwindling crowds issue, and not just, you know, Walt Disney World, as we were talking about before, but maybe that's, you know, a story that's reverberating throughout all theme parks, Six Flags Nuts, you know, Kennywood, Disneyland, you know. Does that or is Disneyland impacted? Well, folks, you definitely want to tune to that one because I think it would shock you and surprise you. Serious downtime issues at Disneyland most recently on Sunday in particular. That was quite interesting. You know, I guess Fantasmic, they have that viewing area, right, for people eating meals and packages and so forth. And apparently they played to an empty house the other day. So it's like, whoa, what's going on there? What is it? Lion King, Avatar replacing Star Wars in terms of Paris and what they were actually going to get there. Like I said, the Marvel merchandise and how that is maybe changing and how Marvel might be actually slowing down. We have a lot more information on that one. And I guess recent news, Dan Lin. Maybe he's not the guy for what is it? Warner Brothers and Zaslav. So
NDT.
A lot of great topics that we want to go ahead and discuss in subsequent videos. Yep. And I think, hey, if you want to go ahead and get on that, definitely subscribe. Definitely like this video. And maybe turn on bell notifications just for that, because it's going to be a very interesting week, folks, and your feed's going to be hip with a lot of stuff. You definitely want to hear our coverage, though, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, brother, for coming on. As always, if you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Hey, you guys have been killing it there at Vash Sky. You can go ahead and follow me down there. Like I said, we are going into what we may be doing for that in terms of a giveaway. It's going to be quite good, but hey. You want to go ahead and you want to follow that for sure. And if you want to go ahead and see me, you can go ahead and do so at the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
But really nothing compares with a freshly squeezed. There you go.
Thanks again to Adam the Woo for that great audio. That is just flawless, absolutely flawless. And thank you, brother, for coming back on. And thank you all for watching. Comment down below with your kind of baseline expectations for the D23 Expo. The Treehouse. Dusty from Mice Chat had some really interesting words to say about that. And what are your thoughts on that, about it maybe not being Encanto, being something else? What are your theories about that? And magic happens. Is it going to happen? Or are these casting calls for something else, like Paint the Night? I mean, I don't know, fandom. I mean, if you were to ask me, magic happens to Paint the Night, I'm probably going to Paint the Night. But
yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm hoping for. But we'll see. But comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching OG 55.